So, Dr. Braithwaite, what field are you currently in, and what got you into your field?
I am a clinical psychologist, so I got a PhD in clinical psychology, and I just joined the faculty this fall, so I'm brand new. And I study marriage. I'm interested in why some marriages succeed and why others fail, and if we can figure out what predicts success, and if we can teach people what to do to prevent the poor marriage outcomes. And then also, how do we get these really good interventions that prevent poor marriage outcomes to the people who need them the most?
So what caused you to be passionate about this particular subject of psychology?
I was always interested in prevention, and when I was applying to graduate schools, I was interested in working with people who were doing prevention, because I guess sort of philosophically, I think that if we try to prevent problems before they appear, we can always be more effective than if we wait until they get their roots in. So then when I started interviewing to different graduate programs, I kind of had an interest in prevention of depression and anxiety, prevention of poor marriage outcomes, and prevention of obesity and heart disease. And the way that it shook out when I was working with this one professor, when I was interviewing with him, I just got really excited, and I thought, this is great. This is what I want to do, and it all kind of clicked for me, and followed it from there.
Well, what kind of projects are you working on now in your field of marriage?
So I developed a computer-based intervention called ePrep, and it teaches couples how to recognize certain danger signs in their relationships, certain patterns of conflict and communication that tend to predict poor outcomes, and then it teaches them skills for how to overcome those specific problematic patterns. And so I'm looking at how we can use this as a premarital intervention for newlywed couples. But in addition to that, I'm kind of looking at the other end of things, where couples who have problems and decide that they need to get marriage therapy usually works really well, but then if you follow up with them about a year later, only about half of them are doing well. So I'm doing a study where I give couples who received marriage therapy ePrep as kind of a booster session to see if it helps them to maintain the gains from marriage therapy for a longer span of time. So I've got a couple other projects going, but those are two of the main ones.
Excellent. Where do you think psychology is headed in your field and for the future?
I am a proponent of empirically based treatments and empirically based practice. And I kind of think that we're going to be moving in that direction more and more. In one way, we're going to be training people in empirically based treatments, but I also think one of the approaches that a researcher here named Mike Lambert is doing, where we focus on patient outcomes, tracking those outcomes, giving feedback to therapists and clients as a way of improving outcomes, is a different take on an empirically based practice. But in my mind, I think as a field, we need to be better at accounting for whether or not we're helping people or not. And we need to make sure that we are consistently and reliably helping people and not hurting them. Because there are certain treatments that are harmful, and people shouldn't have to be exposed to them.
What advice would you give future psych majors?
I think the best advice I have to give is that you ought to try to shadow the person who does what you think you want to do. I think a lot of psych majors have notions that they want to become a therapist. And I love therapy and I love clinical work. I could never do it full time. I could never do 40 hours a week of clinical work. And I have friends who were dead set on becoming full-time clinicians, and then they started to do it, and they were not happy with their lives. So as much as possible, I want people to shadow the person who does what they think they want to do, so that they can make an eyes wide open decision about whether or not that's the course that they want to continue to pursue. Because it's a fantastic course if you've got the stamina for it. But a lot of us, including me, don't.
So why would people want to do this kind of therapy for 24/7? Not 24/7, but this kind of therapy. What kind of effects would it have on the therapist or the psychologist?
Well, I think it just depends on the person. I mean, I don't think that it's going to damage people and make them, so they're going to have some sort of mental illness because they did too much therapy. But it might make them unhappy. And I just think that for your career, you're going to spend the majority of your waking life doing this thing. You want to make sure that what you do, you love. I really love what I do as a professor. I love that I get to teach, I love that I get to do research, and I love that I get to do clinical work and work with really smart students and help them do clinical work. To me, that's exciting, the balance of being able to do all of it. So I would hope that people, when they get into this career, that they would make sure that what they chose to do was something that they wanted to do and that they were happy doing.
What can we do now as psych majors to prepare for graduate school?
Research, 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 research. It doesn't matter what you want to do in graduate school. They want to see that as an undergraduate that you got involved in research, that you were a mover and a shaker who got things done, and that if you go into their program that you're not going to take 12 years to get a PhD because you can't finish your dissertation, even though you plan on becoming a clinician. Of course, if you want to go into academics, you need to do research to show that you can do research. But regardless of which path you want to pursue, research is what will set you apart as an applicant to graduate school.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.